February 2005. Bloomingdale's, White Plains. A Gambino capo, a captain, and a 400-pound man walk through the housewares aisle. They're not shopping. The 400-pound man is wearing a Rolex, a ring, and a wire. His name is Joaquín García, a Cuban FBI agent standing 3 feet from 2 men who once used a power drill on a man's skull. One hug, and he's dead. For 2 years, he ate breakfast with killers, handed them a bugged phone, recorded hundreds of hours while one mispronounced pasta dish could get him buried. The Gambino family tried to make him a sworn member, only the second time in FBI history. He fooled the most paranoid criminal organization in America with restaurant tabs, stolen jewelry, and a pronunciation of manicotti that made men never questioned. But one night, a captain grabbed a crystal candlestick and beat a man bloody. Every mobster expected Garcia to join in. He hesitated for 1 second, and in the Mafia, hesitation is a death sentence. How did a Cuban kid fool the Gambino family for 700 days, and what happened when they realized who he was? The FBI does not begin by saying, "Let's infiltrate the Gambinos." It begins with a strip club in the Bronx, a place that cycled through names like the Mirage, Pretty Woman, the Crazy Horse where men drink, overspend, and get squeezed. Albanian mobsters are muscling in on Gambino territory. The club's owner is Peter Fat Pete Forchetti, already charged in an earlier strip club extortion case. Federal prosecutors flip him. They do not just want testimony. They want a doorway into the Gambino inner circle. At the same time, Bureau intelligence picks up something darker when De Palma finishes his prison sentence. Certain Gambino figures may want him dead, mobsters worrying he talks too much. De Palma walks out of federal custody on February 20th, 2003. He is expected to fade old, sick, a relic. Instead, within days, he is rebuilding his crew and reclaiming rackets like a man sprinting on borrowed time, grabbing everything before the clock runs out. And critically, he is talking. Forchetti hands him a bugged cell phone not once but twice. Through those devices, the FBI captures hundreds of hours of De Palma's conversations over the next 2 years, his own voice building the case against him one sentence at a time. But phone recordings are only one prong. Federal prosecutors later describe a 3-pronged assault bug planted through De Palma's daily routine, a flipped associate feeding him compromised phones, and an undercover agent walking his inner circle like a man crossing a frozen lake, every step calculated, every crack potentially fatal. If the agent cannot follow De Palma everywhere, the microphones can. This is the wall the Bureau keeps hitting. La Cosa Nostra is engineered to repel outsiders. A rigid hierarchy of bosses, underbosses, consiglieri, capos, soldiers, and associates bound by secret initiation rituals and omertà, the oath of silence enforced by death. Made members must be male and of Italian descent. Penetrating that structure with an undercover agent is a one-take operation. No rehearsals, no second chances, no extraction plan that works faster than a bullet. So in 2002, the FBI built a persona from scratch, Jack Falcone, a Miami-connected jewelry fence and thief. Cash-heavy, flashy, generous. Fancy car, Rolex, gold cross, diamond ring. Italian suits bought 2 sizes too confident. The man cast to play Jack Falcone is Joaquín Jack García, born in Cuba. Not Italian, not Sicilian. The Bureau knows this sounds like a suicide mission, but criminals do not run DNA tests. They run vibes, and Garcia's vibe is enormous. 400 pounds of charisma, a smile that fills a room, compliments that land like gifts. The kind of man who walks through a door and makes everyone ask, "Who is that guy?" And while they are asking, they are not interrogating. To keep the lie breathing, Garcia gets a handler, Nat Parisi, his lifeline to the real world. They meet constantly in public places, Home Depot, parking lots, diners, gas stations swapping recording equipment and intelligence inside envelopes like relay runners passing a baton, except dropping this baton means a coffin. Together, they invent what Garcia calls mob school. It is not about firearms. It is about groceries. The trap that kills an undercover agent is not always a gun. Sometimes it is a menu. Do you say manicotti, like a civilian, or manigot, like someone raised in Italian kitchens? One mispronounced syllable at a dinner table surrounded by wise guys who treat cuisine like a dialect, that syllable can get you buried. They drill cash handling, no wallet, ever. You wrap bills in a rubber band peeled off a head of broccoli because wise guys steal even the rubber bands. They drill social engineering. You disarm a dangerous man by complimenting his shoes. You tell him his watch looks expensive. You make him smile, and while he is smiling, he forgets to ask the questions that would end your life. Then the door opens. Forchetti introduces Jack Falcone to Greg De Palma, vouching that Jack has a financial stake in the strip club. Suddenly, a Cuban FBI agent is standing 3 feet from a Gambino captain who survived prison and came out starving. De Palma's real filter is not ethnicity, it is useful. But he tests Garcia anyway, almost casually. Garcia answers like he is ordering lunch. You ever belong with wise guys? No, only Cubans. That answer should detonate the operation. It does not. De Palma accepts it because De Palmas does not need a cousin. He needs an earner. And that paradox will fuel everything that follows. The Mafia believes it is testing blood, but it is really testing profit. So what happens when a non-Italian outsider understands that equation better than the Italians who wrote it? And how long can a man survive inside a world where one wrong answer at breakfast means never making it to lunch? By June 2003, 4 months after De Palma's release, Falcone is close enough to receive formal protection placed on record with the Gambino family. That status is not earned by charm. It is earned by cash flow. Garcia learns the mob's simplest operating principle. The money is proof, not paperwork, not genealogy. Money, the Mafia's highest compliment, is not "you're loyal." You're an earnest man who generates revenue for his captain and for every boss above his captain, because the hierarchy is a pipeline. Money flows up. Protection flows down. If you are useful inside that system, the organization forgives everything else because profit feels like proof of loyalty. A mispronounced vowel, even a suspiciously perfect smile, not because the organization is merciful, but because profit feels like truth. So Garcia feeds De Palma a river of gifts: counterfeit cigarettes for his birthday, jewelry, a flat-screen television, iPods. A steady waterfall of stolen luxury goods is actually supplied by the FBI evidence room because the performance must look effortless. Garcia calls himself the goose that laid the golden egg, and De Palma keeps collecting. De Palma is not merely greedy, he is strategic. He wants to look like a Westchester businessman while running Westchester rackets. He turns Costco runs into mobile board meetings, pushing a shopping cart past diapers and boxes of macaroni while discussing extortion payments like items on a grocery list. He obsesses over surfaces. Cars are washed every single day. Vehicles constantly swapped: a compact sedan, then a convertible, then a boxy luxury SUV. Scratches buffed out within hours. The exterior is immaculate. The interior, according to Garcia, looks like a bomb detonated, which may be the most accurate metaphor in this entire story. If you're following this case and finding it as gripping as I am, a quick like really helps push these deep dive investigations to more people who actually care about them. Now the surveillance turns intimate. For 2 years straight, Falcone wears a wire taped to his chest. Not occasionally, not when convenient, every single encounter. Then he does something even more audacious. He hands De Palma a cell phone. Bugged. The device lets the FBI track De Palma's location and monitor his conversations even when the phone is powered off. The irony is surgical. De Palma is old school, paranoid. He spots surveillance vans. He ditches phones. He rotates routines. And still he accepts a phone from Falcone because in a world where nothing is written down, gifts are social currency. One morning, after noticing an unfamiliar vehicle near his breakfast spot, De Palma panics, tosses the phone, and demands a replacement. Forchetti delivers one within hours. The FBI plants a fresh bug inside it. De Palma uses that phone right up until the handcuffs click. Paranoia cannot save you when the panic button is wired into the trap. Meanwhile, Garcia and Parisi meet as often as 5 times a day. Home Depot, parking lots, fast food restaurants, swapping devices and intelligence in plain sight. inside the envelope's recording gear. Inside Garcia's head, a rotating list of Italian food words he cannot mispronounce if he wants to see tomorrow. One wrong syllable at the wrong table, and 2 years of work detonates in a single dinner. De Palma keeps talking about tape extortion, loan sharking, illegal gambling, and a mob tax on construction projects. 2% of every job, just for existing. Business racketeering dressed up as etiquette, enforced by the promise that someone large and unpleasant will visit if the check is late. The deeper Garcia descends, the clearer the truth becomes. This is not a secret brotherhood held together by honor. It is a business held together by fear and appetite. Garcia later describes De Palma as the devil incarnate, the same man who once used a power drill on someone's skull over suspected theft. When that man calls you kid and tells a joke, you laugh like your circulatory system depends on it. But the suspicion never fully disappears. De Palma wonders aloud whether Falcone is 100%. Doubt, in this world, is a 3-syllable death sentence. So Garcia tightens every thread of his performance. Never wrong on a pasta name, never wrong on a cash count, never wrong on a compliment. Always big, always generous, always harmless on the surface. And underneath, always calculating the distance to the nearest exit. How long can a man sustain perfection before one imperfect second gets him killed? And what happens when the men testing you stop asking questions because they've already decided you're family? Falcone's daily schedule is no longer his own. It is De Palma's. That is what trusted means inside the Gambino orbit. You do not get invited to meetings. You become part of someone's morning. Days begin at diners. 2 hours of eggs, coffee, and small talk about newspaper headlines, as if career criminals have hobbies. Then the bill arrives, and grown men with reputations for violence suddenly develop tiny arms reaching for nothing, checking empty pockets, performing the ancient ritual of pretending the check does not exist. Every breakfast becomes a test Garcia did not know he was taking. If Falcone always grabs it, it signals exactly what he needs it to signal the earner. Provider. Not a brokester, which is mob slang for a man who costs more than he produces. And in a world where utility determines survival, being labeled a brokester is a professional death sentence. Midday brings the nursing home, United Hebrew Geriatric Center, where De Palma's son lies in a coma. De Palma visits daily and converts the room into a mob office. He collects envelopes, issues threats, and plans crimes at his comatose son's bedside. This is the twisted engine of his worldview. De Palma tells Garcia that the Mafia is his true family. If your child is dying and the boss calls, you leave the child and answer the boss. Garcia later says the nursing home is where he feels the worst, not because the crimes grow larger, but because the victims shrink. Elderly residents, sick people who cannot leave the room when a Gambino captain decides to make a point between visiting hours. And Garcia sits there wearing a wire, unable to flinch, because in this environment, basic human decency is suspicious behavior. Afternoons shift to Italian restaurants. Food is not a break from the operation. Food is the operation. Cuisine functions as a dialect, and mispronouncing a single dish can unravel months of work. Mob school prepared Garcia. But the real danger is not forgetting a word. It is someone else remembering a different pronunciation. Because every wise guy at the table considers himself a culinary authority, and every shared meal is an exam no one announces. The pressure is constant. Garcia orders food like a man defusing a bomb slowly, carefully, knowing that one wrong syllable detonates the entire performance. Nights circle back to the strip club in the Bronx. More meetings, more envelopes, more men performing authority while arguing over who pays for mozzarella sticks. And over the months, the disguise becomes biological. Garcia gains 80 pounds. He jokes that other agents drink to manage stress. He eats Entenmann's pastries instead of whiskey. The lie starts living inside his body, his weight, his habits, his appetite all becoming layers of operational cover. He removes the wire at night and quietly wonders who he is without the costume. The recordings accumulate hundreds of hours from bugged phones, hundreds more from the chest wire. Conversations about extortion, gambling, loan sharking, and what amounts to a private tax system enforced by the credible threat of violence. One tape captures De Palma explaining his construction shakedown like a man describing sales tax 2%, not negotiable, and if the contractor refuses, De Palma discusses sending someone to collect because violence is not the punishment. Violence is the invoice. Now the earliest question snaps shut. Remember what De Palma asked, "You ever belong with wise guys?" Remember the answer, only Cubans. De Palma heard that answer, filed it, and kept pulling Garcia closer anyway, because Falcone is not a friend. He is a revenue stream. He moves jewelry. He earns. He pays every check. And that gravity makes the next step inevitable. De Palma begins talking about straightening out Falcone, making him an official member of La Cosa Nostra. Garcia hears it recorded on tape, De Palma's own voice. "One thing I'm pushing ASAP is you." The lie stops being temporary. For an undercover agent, being made is not a promotion. It is a trap with no exit, because once you are sworn in, there is no resignation letter, no retirement plan, only a lifetime commitment enforced by death. In the Mafia, you can stop being an associate. You cannot stop being one of us. So what does an undercover agent do when the men he is deceiving offer him the one promotion he cannot accept and cannot refuse without dying? And what does it cost a man to become someone else so completely that he forgets who he was before the lie? Being made is not a promotion. It is a lock clicking shut from the inside. In La Cosa Nostra, becoming a soldier means swearing omertà, the oath of silence, sealed with blood. In some families, candidates must first commit a murder. Made members must be male and of Italian descent. That rule has functioned for decades as the gate, the ancestral firewall. It is the organization's immune system, designed to reject outsiders before they ever reach the inner circle. And yet this entire story exists because the rule is also a blindfold. If everyone assumes Italian blood equals loyalty, then an Italian enough performance becomes a skeleton key. The organization's paranoia points outward at strangers, at informants, at cars parked too long on the wrong street, while the real threat sits at the dinner table, picking up every check, laughing at every joke, and never once flinching at the violence everyone else expects him to join. The ceremony itself is a ritualized theater with permanent consequences, a finger pricked for blood, a saint's card set ablaze in cupped hands, an oath spoken while flame eats paper and ash falls through fingers. After that, there is no resignation letter. Garcia is only the second FBI agent publicly known to receive an offer of membership. The first was Joseph Pistone Donnie Brasco, spent 6 years inside the Bonanno crime family. Pistone's story proved the same lethal arithmetic: one slip, one accident, one mispronounced word at the wrong table, and you vanish. Pistone's operation ended with multiple convictions, but also with a $500,000 contract on his life, a price tag that never expires. The deeper you penetrate, the harder the exit becomes, because the Mafia does not forgive betrayal. It archives it. The FBI splits internally. One faction sees an intelligence windfall without precedent, a federal agent sworn into the inner sanctum. The other faction sees a countdown to catastrophe. The deeper Garcia descends, the more likely he receives an order he cannot follow and cannot refuse. Bureau leadership frames the decision as a risk-reward equation they are unwilling to accept. Garcia, meanwhile, constructs his own emergency exit. If someone ever says, "Let's take a ride," and the ride turns into a murder assignment, he plans to fake a cardiac arrest, collapse, clutch his chest, force an ambulance call. A simulated death to escape a real one. It is absurd. But so is learning to pronounce prosciutto correctly enough to fool the Gambino family. The closer the making ceremony approaches, the tighter De Palma's orbit contracts, and the more other crew members notice small details. Is Falcone too generous? Too composed under pressure? Too normal? Does he flinch at the wrong moments? Does he laugh at the wrong jokes? De Palma himself wonders aloud whether his protege is 100%. That phrase is not a casual curiosity. It is an interrogation disguised as a compliment. And in the Mafia, once doubt enters the room, it never fully leaves. And then fate selects the worst possible stage for Garcia's single worst mistake. Bloomingdale's housewares department, White Plains 2 weeks before the planned arrests, and directly across the street from the FBI field office, running the entire operation because irony does not take days off. Vaccaro grabs the crystal candlestick and beats Vicini bloody. Garcia does the one thing he cannot do. He stands still. He does not participate. He thinks like a cop for one visible, measurable second, and he knows it the instant it happens. The performance cracks, not dramatically, not with shouting or running. Just a single frozen moment where instinct overrides training, and a man who has spent 2 years never hesitating hesitates exactly once. Afterward, he feels the temperature change. The glances, the quiet recalculation behind eyes that have survived decades by detecting exactly this kind of flaw. The FBI hears enough on tape to reach a conclusion they pull Garcia out, not because the Mafia discovers him, but because the Mafia is hours from discovering him. Now a clock starts that no one can pause. De Palma has crew meetings scheduled. Garcia must attend and keep performing until the final second. The FBI must arrest more than 30 targets simultaneously across multiple boroughs before a single phone call warns the rest. Which arrives first, the making ceremony or the sunrise raid? And if Garcia hesitated once, how many other invisible fractures are waiting to collapse the entire performance? March 9th, 2005. Federal agents move across New York in coordinated waves. Arnold Zeke Squitieri arrested. Anthony Miguel arrested. Greg De Palma arrested. 32 mob figures in total, pulled from beds, cars, and kitchens before dawn. The FBI's New York assistant director states the undercover agent risked his life. U.S. Attorney David Kelly confirms Garcia maintained the operation for 2 years, 700 days, where one mispronounced word could have ended everything. This is not a street bust. It is a surgical reputation built on recordings, bugs, and a Cuban agent who learned to pronounce pasta like a loaded weapon. The charges include extortion, loan sharking, illegal gambling, shakedowns, and the crystal candlestick assault inside a department store. Court filings describe plots discussed at the bedside of a comatose man because the Gambino strategy is hiding crime inside ordinary life. The guilty pleas come fast. The evidence is not one informant's word against theirs. It is their own voices, recorded, time-stamped, preserved for replay. It is very difficult to argue with yourself. CBS later reports the operation as one of the largest Gambino roundups in FBI history because Garcia and Parisi had not merely caught a crew. They had walked the bureau through the front door of an entire hierarchy. Every defendant pleads guilty. Every defendant except De Palma. De Palma goes to trial in 2006. He deploys the health strategy, wheelchair appearances, medical emergencies, the theater of frailty. Aging defendants hoping illness will purchase what innocence cannot. The jury listens to the tapes and convicts him. And here is the backward detail that makes prosecutors wince in the case built on years of meticulous surveillance. De Palma is acquitted of the Bloomingdale's assault itself, the one scene everyone can picture, the one act of violence that nearly ended the entire operation. But racketeering does not require a single punch. It requires the pattern, and the pattern is on tape. At sentencing in September 2006, De Palma asks the judge for one more shot. The judge gives him more than 12 years instead. Here is the moment the entire operation has been building toward. In court, De Palma finally watches Jack Falcone transform, not in a cinematic reveal, not with dramatic lighting, just a witness walking to the stand. The man he mentored, protected, fed, and tried to make one of us identifies himself as Special Agent Joaquín García of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Garcia later describes De Palma's expression as classic, shock, betrayal, and beneath both, a humiliation that burns hotter than rage because it means the system failed. The Mafia did not catch the infiltrator. It promoted him. It fed him. It tried to make him family. De Palma dies in a federal medical facility in 2009, 77 years old. The man who built his entire life on the doctrine of loyalty, who told Garcia that the family is your real family, period, ends it in federal custody, destroyed by the one thing he demanded from everyone else: trust. And now, the story reframes itself one final time. The Mafia's greatest weapon was never violence. Violence is common. Anyone can be violent. The real weapon was the system. Blood requirements, oaths, rituals, paranoia, omerta. Rules designed across generations to keep outsiders out. But those rules pointed in only one direction. They scanned for strangers. They filtered for bloodlines. And while all that machinery hummed, Garcia walked through the front door carrying gifts, paying checks, and pronouncing manicotti like he had been saying it since birth. He wrapped his cash in a rubber band from a head of broccoli. He complimented every man's shoes. He smiled until the dangerous questions forgot to show up. They trusted him because he made them money. They almost made him because they were proud of the money. And the only reason he survives is that the FBI extracts him first, not because his cover held forever, but because it held exactly long enough. If you want to see what happens when the same system gets fooled by fake software that decoded Al-Qaeda messages from TV static, watch the video on screen now. A casino tech convinces the CIA gets top-secret access, nearly shuts down international flights until the math proves his intel is impossible. Then the government buries the scandal and lets him walk free. Click here.